Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for being here. This is a conversation that I've been looking forward to having with Dr. Julie and two of her wonderful kids, Eleanor and William. And they're going to introduce themselves in a second. First, I just want to say that this is an exciting experiment for a podcast for the Eagle Haven Educational Nonprofit Organization. And we are delighted to listen today about beekeeping. And it turns out that Eleanor and William have had the experience of learning about beekeeping hands-on at their school. So we're going to open with that, and you may learn all kinds of other things about William and Eleanor, but let's start with Dr. Julie.
So, yes, I am a British veterinarian who is mother to these two wonderful children, as well as some other children who are not here today. And the children are very fortunate to go to a school where they keep bees. And so the children have been involved in beekeeping, which I do not know an awful amount about. I think they probably know a lot more than I do on this subject.
I want to open it up to William and Eleanor at the same time. So you go to school in the UK. Can you tell us a little bit about your school?
Our school...
Is that Eleanor that's speaking now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a private school in England, and it's a boarding school. So we sleep there overnight every week, and there's lots of different activities like beekeeping, and there's loads of different sports and things like that.
So you actually got to learn about beekeeping on the grounds where you actually may play sports and run and read and do outside fun things.
Mm-hmm.
So William, did you want to add to...
So where the beekeeping stuff is, it's next to the Astros, which is where I play tennis. So it's just behind the wall, which I don't think is a safe place for bees, but school does.
And the bees seem to thrive despite all of the
tennis balls.
Tennis balls.
There's a big fence there, so the tennis balls don't really go over there.
So did you sign up for beekeeping, or did someone recruit you? How did you end up taking a beekeeping class, or more than one class?
There's two different ways you can get in. One, we have something on the weekend called Quest, which you learn about different stuff. So some of them might be beekeeping, cooking, or multiple other activities. So you could do beekeeping then, or every couple days you have an activity. Yeah, you don't get to choose it, but you could be chosen for beekeeping.
So you both got to take it at the same time, or
No, different times.
Different times. So which one of you took it first?
Eleanor, I think.
Eleanor. So Eleanor, tell us about the bees. So they literally live on the campus of the school.
Yeah, there's 9 different hives. So we just recently got a new one for the Queen's Jubilee, so it's like specially designed for that.
Now, can I just ask a question? The Queen is Queen Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
So are there queen bees that you learned about?
We learned about the bees, but like all the different type of bees, but we don't give them names, I don't think.
Okay.
But you do know about the queen bee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tell us more about... So how many do we have? How many hives do we have?
9.
And what do they look like if you're walking across the field? What do the hives look like?
It's just like a big brown box, and you can't see the bees until you open it. Well, in the summer you can see like the bees flying around, but if you want to look in, you have to actually open up the hive.
So who takes care of the bees that live on the campus of your school?
They're different teachers. So the teacher that takes the activity, she only looks after them for the activity, but then there's different teachers who really like beekeeping. So just during their free time, they'll check on the bees and make sure they're okay.
So, William, you were the second. You found out that Eleanor had a good time with the class, so you signed up for it after that?
Mm-hmm.
How old are you, William?
10.
Eleanor, how old are you?
12.
12. So how old were you, William, when you took the class?
8 or 9.
And did you want to take it again?
Yeah.
Is it difficult to get in?
Not too hard, but
So-
if you're lucky,
If
you'll
you're
get
lucky. So you've taken it one time?
Yeah.
And Eleanor, you've taken it one time?
Yeah.
So I might imagine that children or students who are listening to this might be wondering, how do you take a class in beekeeping and get close to the bees? Did you get close to them?
Yeah.
Were you afraid to be stung?
Not really, because you wear a suit before you go,
Oh.
before you open it, and usually before you open it, you use something called a smoker,
Uh-huh.
which, guess what? It uses smoke to calm down the bees before you open it, because if you just open it, they might get a bit mad that you're intruding on their home.
Aha. How do we know that the bees might feel intruded upon?
Well, if they feel threatened.
And Eleanor, how do we know what bees feel? Do they have a brain?
I think they have a brain.
William, do you think they have a brain?
Probably.
You say probably. Dr. Julie, as a veterinarian, can you tell us about the bee brain?
Well,
Is there one?
So, I did not learn about insects on my veterinary course, but my belief is they do have a collection of nerves that congregate in the head region, but it's not a classic type brain. So I don't think it has sort of coalesced together like our brain where there's white matter and grey matter. I just think it's a collection of neurons rather than a specific brain. They're obviously incredibly intelligent animals. Well, depends how you define intelligence, but bees can find their way around large distances and be able to get back to the hive. They can go back to the same plants regularly. So they have some of what we would call intelligence. As regards emotions, they don't have classic emotions like we have. So I think William is right that they would feel threatened. And if we feel threatened, we might have a fast heart rate, we might sweat, we might try to run away. And we know that we feel those things. The bees' behavior, I think, is a lot more instinctive. They will just know something's happening and their defense mechanism is either to fly away or to sting. And I don't think they process that as we would process it. It's more instinctive.
This is fascinating. Did you both learn about the behaviors of bees and what to expect when you were?
A little bit. Before we went in, they were like, don't like crowd them. Just give them a bit of space.
Give them space. And Eleanor, is that what you learned too?
The teacher that took me said that none of the students have been stung yet.
Well, that's
So-
reassuring.
Yeah.
And so you both wore these suits. Can one of you describe the suit? Does it cover every inch of your body?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a hazmat suit kind of, but and you have gloves, and then you're supposed to wear wellies so you can pull it right down so they can't get like up the suit. And then you have this hat on, and it has like mesh in the front so you can still see but they can't come in. And you tuck all your hair in so they can't get tangled in your hair, and it makes it really hard for them to sting you.
And how do you show affection to the bees? Is that the smoke? Is that being affectionate? Is that being caring of them?
Yes and no.
Oh, tell us more, William.
Because if you're smoking them, it kind of like puts them to sleep.
Ah,
So it's kind of mean. It's kind of nice. It's nice that you're putting them to sleep so you don't harm them. But it's mean as in you're taking away their honeycomb and their honey.
oh,
And
is that what happens? Tell us about that. So the smoke gives you a safe access to the honeycomb?
Yeah.
Is this like a little bellows that you pump? Or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
And is it just, I wonder what exactly it is in there.
What kind
mean,
of smoke?
yeah.
How is the
Do you
smoke
know what
made?
it is?
So it's like a watering can, and then it's got, I don't know how you describe it. It's got like a pushy thing at the end.
yeah, a pump kind of.
Yeah,
and
pump
you
thing, and it's
pump
got
it.
like fire. You have to like light it,
Oh, you do?
inside,
Ah.
and then you just push the thingy, and it puts out smoke.
Oh,
So
so
the-
it's just regular smoke then?
When you push the thingy, that's the shape of a bellows. Like it's a triangle shape that you push. That
Yeah.
goes
And then
open
that
at the back.
pushes air, which then pushes the smoke out.
Fascinating.
But it's not just regular wood. It's a bit of other like oil and stuff. But that stuff's already in there.
Ah. So it's all kind of a combination of things that are that are burning.
Yeah.
When they take the honey, they don't take it all because the bees use some of the honey as food. So it wouldn't be fair to take all of it. So they leave enough for the bees.
Well, talk some more about that, Eleanor.
Well, obviously you want the honey to be able to sell, and then so you can buy more bees. But you don't want to take it all, or else the bees will die because they won't have enough food. So you just take little bits at different times.
When you were taking the class, did you visit the hive once or more than once?
I visited it every lesson that we had.
So how many lessons were there?
I think 5.
5 lessons. And what happens? Was that your experience too, William?
No, I only visited it once because I did it in the winter,
Ah.
so it's a bit different.
And
Oh, interesting.
they can't really come out that much in the winter because they need to be in a certain temperature. So they make the hive that they're in, I think it's 93 to 95 degrees.
How do they
So
heat
then-
the hive?
I think just with their body temperature and moving around.
So there's 2 ways. So in the winter, they all gather round, in a huddle, like
The
penguins.
bees.
Yeah.
Like
and in
penguins?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
and in summer, they gather round some water, and they fan it with their wings, and then it evaporates, and then they use it as a inside air conditioning.
Fascinating. What happens when it rains?
The boxes are waterproof.
The boxes are the hives.
There's 3 parts, I think.
Yeah, so the bottom part is, I'm pretty sure, where the worker bees are, because there's a little ramp to go down. So in case, it's raining or something, they can walk up the ramp if they can't fly or something like that. And to get up to the next section, it's like little holes, so the queen bee can't come down because she's too big to fit, because they don't want her going outside because she might join with another colony by accident. So there's different holes, so she can go up to the top, but she can't go down to the bottom, so she can't go out. And then the top layer is
Called a brood box.
yeah, where you put the food for them if you need to give them food. So which is just a mixture of water and sugar. You pour it around, and then if they don't have enough honey in the winter or enough nectar, they can drink that.
Also, in the top, that's where they have their larvae.
Hmm.
Talk about that for a minute, William.
Well, with larvae, there's something called royal jelly, and you feed that to them. That's a lot of protein, so it gets them through the first week. And then once after that, if you're not selected to be a queen, then you'll get regular, something called bee bread, and it's got water, nectar, I think, and something else, but I forgot. But the carefully selected other ones, they keep getting fed royal jelly to then become big enough to become queen. And then if there's multiple still living, they fight to the death. So you becomes queen.
So when you're talking about larvae, you're talking about they're being tended to by the beekeeper.
No, by other bees.
So where does a royal jelly come from?
They make it.
Yeah,
So the beekeepers, what do they provide?
They
not much.
just the extra food if the bees need it.
Like water and sugar?
Yeah, mix together.
sense.
But then the royal jelly is made out of water and honey and different vitamins and stuff.
That are
To
produced by the bees.
Yeah, to make them extra strong, because the queen bee's bigger than the rest of the bees. So
And sometimes, the beekeepers, they steal the royal jelly, but that kills the larva. So if they want, they can steal it to sell. Apparently, it gives you anti-aging effects and other stuff, which is good, but it's also bad for the bees because it kills might be one of their future queens.
So tell us more about the role of the bees that keeps the larva evolving into new bees.
Well, if you're talking about queen bees, there's some selected bees that are called nurse bees, and they look after the queen and the baby queens.
And so it sounds like they're very busy.
Yeah. And then there's like 3 to 4 different types of bees. So there's the queen bee, the drones, the worker bees, and the nurse bees. So all of the female bees, apart from the queen, will be the workers. And the workers go out and get the nectar. And then there's around, it depends how big the colony is. There's around 20 to 80,000 of the worker bees. And then the drones are to make the queen bee pregnant. So there's only like 100 of those. So they just choose the best drone, and then the others are kicked out of the colony.
When they get kicked out, how do they survive? Do they go to another colony or?
Usually they just die
Yeah.
because they can't survive by themselves.
But they might get to another colony. Usually not, though. Because most of the drones are kicked out during winter, I think.
It just depends, I'm pretty sure.
This is fascinating. I have questions for both of you and Dr. Julie about what has happened in the last 10 or 20 years to bees and their evolution. Are they becoming extinct? Are they challenged? Do we need them? Why do we care about bees?
Well, I think we definitely need bees because they pollinate, which keeps us alive, because if there were no pollinators, there'd be less vegetables and less fruit. And you need that in your diet.
Humans need it.
Yeah, and they're one of the main pollinators.
And also adding to Eleanor, if you don't have vegetables, the things we use to eat meat, so like a cow, if it has nothing to eat, then we're no longer going to have cows, and then we have nothing to eat.
So it's not only important for humans to have vegetables to eat, it's important for all the different animals, whether we raise the animals for their milk or their meat, or whether they are part of the ecosystem of the different forests and fields, yes?
Yeah.
So what do you know about the challenges for bees? Are they thriving now, or are they still having a hard time surviving?
I think, in the winter, it's obviously a lot harder for them because it's colder, and since they're so small, with just like a little bit under the temperatures that they can survive, they're gonna die because it's way too cold for them. But in the summer, it's easier for them because there's a lot more flowers, so they can get more food, and it's warmer. So yeah.
I wonder how much you learned during this beekeeping, which is fascinating. And boy, you both have learned so much. It's really rich what you've learned. When you were learning about all this, what were the most interesting parts of this for you? Was it about how challenged the survival of bees is, or was it more about, or both? Was it also about how they care for one another and survive?
I found interesting how they care for each other and survive in the winter and the summer, and what the challenges are for them.
And for you, William?
I found everything fascinating. Like 4,000 bees only equals 1 pound.
In weight.
Yeah, in weight.
Wow.
4,000 bees.
And we looked at different things, but I think this is the main one that came up. It said, in a bee's lifetime, it'll only make 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey.
And then it dies?
Every job that it does, every time it goes outside, it'll make a tiny bit of honey, and then before it dies, it will add up to 1/12 of a teaspoon.
So how do we help bees multiply and survive and thrive? What is it that you learned about that?
Well, there's 2 things you can do. Either leave them alone, just don't harm them, or if you want to help them by not don't kill them, then you could build boxes and you could get more bees. You could get some bees and then try produce more bees.
So you can buy bees,
Yeah.
and you can buy the hives, the boxes, the
Yeah.
hives for
Yeah.
them.
You buy queens,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can.
And you have to take care of them year round, yes, if you do that.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a way to multiply the number of bees.
Yep.
What are some of the things that kill bees? Do we know?
Well, pesticides on plants. That's a big one. People, like, if there's a bee in your home, just killing it. Because say that was like, if it had lots of honey, that could just save the hive from death. Because you need honey, the bees need honey to live. Otherwise, we're not gonna have any more bees.
And also people going too close to their hive, so they feel threatened, so they want to protect the others, so they attack, but then once they sting, they die. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So that's another way. The reason for the smoke is so that they don't
Sting and die.
die. Wow, that's very important. Dr. Julie, do you have something to add to any part of that?
Well, obviously there's the big problem is pesticides, and a lot of them are toxic to bees. And so we have a much reduced bee population over the last sort of 50 years as we've used more and more chemicals really on plants. But also it's the type of things that we're growing aren't necessarily that helpful for bees. So a small thing that people can do is maybe have some sort of wildflowers in their yard, and that just helps the bee population. Provides them with pollen, and so that they can make their honey. So there's little things that everybody can do. And I suppose in an ideal world, we would all eat organic food that doesn't have pesticides on it. But obviously, organic food is more expensive, and not everybody is fortunate enough to be able to afford that.
So I am really fascinated. I have so many, many, many more questions. What were the surprising facts that you learned about bees that you didn't anticipate that you would?
Well, a queen bee lays around 800,000 eggs in her lifetime.
That's a lot of children.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So she lays the eggs, they then hatch out into larvae, and then some of those larvae are selected to be potential queens, and they are fed the royal jelly.
That's when the queen is like dying.
Oh, okay.
And then, so they'll pick up 10 to 20 bees and they'll feed them the royal jelly when they're like an egg, and then once they're the larvae as well. And then some of them won't make it, but then the biggest and strongest ones, well, they all fight, but then obviously the biggest and strongest one will probably win.
And do we as humans know why they pick what's different about these 10 to 20 eggs that the other bees select to be queen bees?
It's just random.
It is just random.
And they just, feed it more so it grows bigger.
And then all the other eggs, which hatch out into larvae, most of those will become worker bees because they're female. Well, all the female ones potentially will become worker bees. Yeah. Some of the males go on to be drones, and the rest of the males are kicked out. Are the nurse bees, are they usually female?
I think they're just the worker bees, but when the queen is dying, they just choose some that pick the eggs, and then they look after those eggs.
Oh, I see. And how long does the queen live for?
I think I read this thing. I can't really remember. I think it said 5 years.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Might be less, but I don't know.
I must say something to Eleanor. There is not every worker. You said they go back to becoming workers, the nurse bees. As I've read things, some of them stay as nurse bees because they have to keep on feeding the queen.
Yeah.
They don't feed the queen royal jelly. They give the queen something called royal liquid, which I think is just the royal jelly just basically mushed up.
She's too busy to mush it up herself, the queen. Yeah, I feel her pain.
So when you talk about, you had the 5 sessions, did you have some information that you read about during the same time that you were visiting and with your hands on learning about the bees while you're in your suits? Were you also reading about it outside of those experiences and learning more about the science?
Well, since I only did one session with the actual bees, I learnt probably a bit more than Eleanor because I was focusing what the bees do, what about them. She was kind of focusing on going to them, doing everything with them.
Mm-hmm. And so the royal liquid is interesting.
I don't understand why they don't give royal jelly, but confusing.
Well, actually, it's just more questions there's a lot more to learn. It's right?
Yeah.
We all have curiosities that the more we learn, the more we want to learn.
Yeah.
So the nurse bees take care of the larvae and also the queen?
They feed the larvae the royal jelly and the eggs the royal jelly. And then, they also feed the queen.
So they're busy.
Yeah.
Not as busy as the workers, though.
The workers are the ones that are probably most vulnerable because they actually go out. And those are the bees that you see. So if you're in your garden and you see some bees, those will be the worker bees getting the pollen and the nectar. Well, they don't actually get the pollen. They just get the nectar and the pollen attaches to them, which then pollinates.
So did you enjoy being outside learning as well as learning inside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer outside, though.
You do?
It's more
Yeah,
fun.
because you get to see the bees. Yeah.
Did you actually get to collect any of the honey on these visits?
No, because I think the teachers just do that. But then we get to try it and then we sell it so we could potentially get more bees for the school.
So you sell the honey
Yeah.
and reinvest that in the care of the bees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And so is there a way I can buy some of the honey that your bees make?
Probably not, because it's in England.
Well, once a year, our school does this big sale, and loads of the kids come up with different stalls. And at that sale, they sell the dragon honey.
It's called dragon honey.
Yeah.
Is that the name that your school has given their honey?
Yeah.
How did they come up with the name dragon?
It's also the name of our school.
Then what's the name of your school?
The dragon school.
Yeah.
The Dragon School?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit weird, but...
No, it's fascinating. But so how did they come up with the name dragon? Do we know?
Basically, it was before it was called the Dragon, it was called the Oxford Preparatory School.
Mm-hmm.
But then they were thinking of a new name and they were talking about the story of, I think his name's George.
St. George.
Yeah, and it's a story of him killing a big dragon. So then they were like, oh, he's super brave and he killed the dragon, so we should call it the Dragon. It's just stuck. So,
Fascinating. Have each of you attended schools in the United States and particularly here in the Fairfax area?
yeah, we both went to Bellevue.
Bellevue Elementary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then I went to Stratford for like 6 months.
So tell us, did you enjoy your time at Bellevue Elementary? Was it an interesting?
Pretty good.
And how does it compare? Let's just say that you're now talking to someone who is at Bellevue Elementary. How did that experience compare to your dragon school? What are the differences or the similarities?
Well, at Bellevue, when I went, it was still getting redone, so there wasn't that much space outside to play. But they had a really nice library and had loads of books in there. And that's like the same as our library. It has lots of different books, and there's books in different languages in case you can't read English that well.
In both Bellevue and the Dragon School?
I think in Bellevue they had that.
What about you, William?
What I found when I went there,
Where? Bellevue?
at Bellevue,
Uh-huh.
that the playground is much smaller, but it's got better stuff in it. So it's got like castles, climbing wall, and all that stuff. Dragon, it does have some playing things. That's for the younger children. In the main school, it's kind of just a bunch of flat stuff that you can play on. So just like tag and that stuff.
And our school, like the Dragon School, Bellevue is like next to a main road, but the Dragon School is on a quiet road and it's next to a river, but we're only allowed to go there with like the teachers in case we fall in. And yeah.
Did you remember there being a creek behind a little stream that
Yeah.
goes behind Bellevue?
Yeah.
That's where I used to play.
You used to play there?
Yeah.
What did you find when you were playing in that stream?
Well, once we found a frog.
Oh, a frog.
but we didn't always play that. Once we tried to make bricks
Uh-huh.
because we found some sand, so we dipped it in the water. It didn't work. So,
But it was a fun experiment.
Yeah.
That's an interesting little stream back there.
Mm.
So you found a frog. Were there insects back there?
well,
Plants?
I didn't see much, but there was this like dying tree in the middle of the playground, and a bunch of people just stood there watching it, touching it and watching the termites come out.
Oh, termites.
Yeah, it's quite cool.
It was cool, huh?
Yeah.
Very interesting. So if somebody who goes to Bellevue or who goes to Fort Hunt Elementary or other schools in their area wanted to learn about bees, what's the number one or number two impression left with you about learning about bees? What would you think would be most interesting to teach them about?
Well, there's lots of different facts that we've said, and this is just another fact that bees like communicate by dancing.
Oh.
So it's just fun to learn about all the different things that bees can do. Even though they're so small, they do such amazing things.
Can you tell us a little bit about the dance? Do they do it in midair or on the ground?
I think both,
Yeah.
but I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I've read about that. I think. Oh yes, I think a worker bee may fly out of the hive and might find somewhere that's got beautiful flowers and lots of pollen and lots of nectar, and they fly back to the hive and by dancing can indicate to the other bees how to get to those flowers. So that the dance will determine, how far they fly this way and how far they fly that way in order to find the same flowers. So instead of me saying, turn left, turn right, walk 10 centimeters, and then you go down some steps, the bees do it all by dancing, which is pretty impressive.
That is very impressive, very interesting. And William, what about you? What would you choose to teach? What fact would you like to convey?
Well, it takes 1 ounce of honey to make a bee fly around the whole world.
Can a bee fly around the world?
Probably not, but if you had 1 ounce of honey, if the bee had that much honey, then they could fly around the world.
So that's a lot, proportionally, that's a lot of fuel for one bee is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you know how many miles the average bee would travel in its lifetime-ish?
Probably about 100,000.
Are you just guessing?
Well,
or did you read that somewhere?
I did read a fact. It says about 110,000 miles, but I forgot what it was about. I don't know.
Was it about a car or a bee?
It was about a bee, but I don't know what the bee did.
I read this thing that said that
110,000.
they can go up to 15 miles per hour, but
Wow.
that's just how fast they can go. That's not how far.
That is pretty fast. When I think about human runners and their different speeds, that's pretty fast.
Mm.
And then we're talking about very, very tiny wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do it 11,400 times a minute. They beat them. That's
Their
why it makes a
wings.
buzz. They beat it, but since they do it so fast, it sounds buzzing.
That's remarkable. I mean, really fascinating. We have recorded sound close up of bees?
I don't know.
We'll have to ask our sound engineers.
Sometimes you can hear them, just like if they fly by, you can hear them buzzing. And
With a human ear, we can hear them. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you hear them in the hive?
Mm-hmm.
And in a hive, do you know how often you can collect the honey?
Well, it just depends how much they make, I think. You just need to make sure that you don't take too much. I think you just kind of guess. And if you can see that they're struggling, probably don't take as much next time.
But there's also the honeycomb, isn't there?
Yeah.
Do they collect that at yours? Well, I suppose they collect that at your school.
Yeah, I think the honeycomb is just like where they put the honey in the little hexagon shapes. So you need to get that out to get the honey out.
So the bees make the honeycomb,
Mhm.
and the honeycomb is hexagonal in shape,
Yeah.
and they deposit the honey in the honeycomb.
Mhm.
But people do eat honeycomb, don't they, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good for you.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was honeycomb. They let us try some, and it's basically just like the bees' wax with honey in it. So
Yummy.
yeah.
And I
was
also must say,
interesting.
the hexagon, it's like the closest shape in the world. Like they can go closest together, apparently.
What do you mean? What
Like
can go
they
closer
can go
together?
like the hexagons, they can be as close
Oh,
as possible.
I see. So because there's lots of hexagons,
Yeah, they can go as close as possible.
they join up really easily.
Yeah.
And, okay. Because if you had circles, you'd have
Yeah.
spaces, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
And
but
squares, you think squares would work, but hexagons work better.
probably. So it says,
Interesting.
and they're very thin, but they're very strong.
What are hexagons?
Yeah, the hexagon outline.
So how do the bees make the honeycomb?
Yeah.
And so do we know anything about that process of how they make that? It's a waxy kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't learn too much about that.
Yeah,
Though.
I'm not too sure. I think it's to do with like the nectar that they get or something, and then I think it's kind of like, you know how spiders make a web?
Yes.
I think it's kind of like that. I'm not too sure though.
Well, that's a nice analogy. It's also so many analogies to geometry and math, right?
Mm-hmm.
That naturally occurring in nature, we have these shapes that are preservatives and that conserve the most important product that the bees are making, which is the honey.
Mm.
But one might argue that it's the royal jelly that is more. I wonder, did anyone give you a warning when you were taking this class about approaching bees in the wild as differently? These are domesticated bees.
A little bit. Like since we were inside most of it, we did do one lesson about bees in the wild, and they said if for some reason bees start attacking you, look for a water source.
And get there
Yeah.
and just immerse yourself in the water?
Yeah.
Okay.
But sometimes there's this one certain type of bee that they'll just stay there until you come out. I forgot what they're called there.
A hybrid, a type of bee.
Yeah.
And we're all talking about honeybees. There are lots of other insects, and maybe Dr. Julie can talk about this, I don't know, that can sting us, that are flying, that can actually hurt us. But
yes.
That's not what we're talking about here, right?
Oh, I think Eleanor wants to say something.
This is just like some bees, they actually just walk around. So if you see a bee on the floor, it might not be injured, it might just be walking. So just leave it be if it looks fine. Because some just walk around.
And in fact, some types of bees build their nests in the ground, and those are hornets.
Yeah.
And they can hurt us. So we need to, unless we have had some training, we need to be careful about approaching bees, yes?
Yeah, at our school, over the winter, one of the colonies was taken over by wasps.
Oh, wow.
So
how did that happen? That's fascinating.
I'm not too sure. They just, since the wasps can sting multiple times and they're bigger, they're scary to the bees. So the bees just have to go away.
Or fight.
Yeah, but they'll probably lose if they fight. So then the wasps take over the colony. So they have to flee, and then they get lost or they just die. So we don't know where they're gone. We haven't got them back.
Wow.
But wasps are important pollinators as well.
Yeah.
But people don't tend to like wasps quite as much. Bumblebees are quite
Nice.
well, we think of them as nice, don't we? I don't know why, but bumblebees have got a good reputation, whereas wasps have got a bit more of a
It's
mean
because
reputation.
wasps
I think
don't give us stuff.
Don't give us the
Yeah.
honey.
Yeah,
Bees-
bumblebees, they do stuff for nature and they do stuff for us.
The bees are the only insect that can make food that we can actually eat. So all the other insects can make stuff, but we can't eat it. So
Although around the world, one of the mainstays of diets around the world are crickets
yeah,
and the cricket family, right?
Yep.
But that's the actual
the animal.
animal, right?
And
Wow.
we've tried crickets, haven't we? We've all eaten
Yeah.
crickets.
Yeah,
We like them?
yeah.
Yeah.
They're delicious.
Had them at school.
Are they crunchy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can get different
And they
flavors.
have lots of
them.
protein. What are the different flavors?
There's like
Chili.
paprika,
Yeah, paprika.
salt and vinegar.
Ooh. Do you like to eat them like in a spoonful of crickets with some rice?
I prefer one by one.
One by
You
one.
get like the nice crunch.
Yeah.
One by one.
Pop them in your mouth. Just one by one.
In fact, they sustain some of the largest populations in the world. That's the protein that sustains many cultures, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't eat bees, do we?
No.
We don't eat them, but we love their honey.
Yeah.
And so does the honey taste different if the bees have been pollinating using different kinds of flowers and plants?
Yeah. So it like depends. So you can get different types of honeys. So you could get like a wildflower honey that would taste different to like
clover.
So some beekeepers put the same flowers really close to the hive, so they just go to those flowers. So then it will be the same flower for the honey. So then they can call it like bluebell honey or something. And then that might be more appealing to people than different things. And then there's different like textures of honey, I guess. There's like thick where you have to use a spoon, but then there's the squeezy ones.
The squeezy?
Yeah.
More fluid?
Yeah. And the like pory ones.
The pory ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dr. Julie, do we know if eating local honey is advantageous?
It definitely is, and it's been shown to be helpful, particularly to people with hay fever. So if you can eat if you can eat honey that is sourced locally, then it should decrease the allergies or the symptoms of allergies that you have because you're exposed to the
nectar.
Well, you're exposed to the allergens in a different way that you take them internally rather than inhaling them, and it makes you have less allergic symptoms.
Is that like homeopathic?
Absolutely, yeah, it's homeopathic. But the trouble is, I think it's quite hard to get local honey because most supermarkets don't sell you local honey. They sell you something that's been made intensively.
Somewhere far away.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of small dispatch options locally.
Like the Dragon School.
Yeah, we did a taste test thing in our in one of the lessons, and so we did it like blindfolded, and they gave us, I think it was 4 different honeys, and most people said that the dragon one tasted the best because it was like local, I guess.
And what flowers do you have local that they might be feeding on?
We just have like all of them. We don't have a certain
variety.
type. Yeah, they just can go to any flower they like.
So I have a closing question. What was the funniest part of the bee world that you learned about? What made you laugh? Yes.
That bees dance to communicate.
That was funny too?
Yeah.
I've seen you dance, William.
It's a sight to behold.
It's pretty awesome. Do you think that dancing bees was funny because you didn't expect that bees dance?
Yeah, I was expecting them. I thought they had antenna and they'd just like click it.
Ah, you thought they communicated through antenna
Yeah.
touching
Yeah.
or sounds?
Yeah.
Fascinating. But that's not what you found.
Yeah.
You learned that they dance.
Mm.
I think I'm pretty fascinated by that factoid. Eleanor, what about you? What was the funniest or most humorous
Well,
part?
it's quite funny when people put on the suits because they look quite funny, like giant marshmallows, I guess.
And can you recognise people?
It's
Not
hard.
really, because it's like quite meshed, so you can't really see their face. But yeah,
Well, I have a proposal. I think we should get some mesh suits and dance in them and do a dance video of us in our mesh marshmallow suits. What do you think?
No.
I think that would be a great project.
No.
Can we choreograph that, Dr. Julie?
Absolutely.
I think that'd be a great thing
Sounds
for us.
wonderful.
We need to preserve this moment. This
I will
is
not be
wonderful.
coming.
Well, this has been wonderful. Is there more that you would like to say? Really wonderful. I've learned so much, and I have so many more questions.
Oh, I have one last thing to say.
Okay.
Each foraging trip that a bee goes on, they have to go to 50 to 100 flowers
Oh,
before they get enough to go back.
enough nectar.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted just thinking.
I think what Eleanor touched on before was the bee leaves the hive in order to get to the nectar. That's what the bees want. But as a side fact, the pollen at the flowers attach to the bee's coat. So that's not the bee's primary aim. The bee's primary aim is to get the nectar. But then as the bees are flying to another flower, some of that pollen might drop off their coat, and that's how they help pollinate.
Yes.
The pollen, they have these like little sticky things on their legs, and that's where the pollen attaches to.
Yeah, that's right.
And so when they go from one flower to the other, they bring the pollen from one flower to the other, right?
It will fall off a bit, and when they go to the next flower, they'll get the pollen from that flower, and then it will drop a bit, and then it just pollinates it.
Well, I am fascinated. I want to learn more. I'm particularly interested in learning more about how the honeycomb is formed, and I've seen some telescopic or microscopic film of how it's done, but I still don't understand it. So I'm determined to. I have a quest now to learn more about how that is formed. So, and the hexagon is just fascinating, how that naturally occurs. So, to be continued. Maybe you'll come back and help us learn more about the more questions that we all might have. Would you do that?
Probably.
Probably.
As long as I don't have to dance in a marshmallow suit.
Well, maybe when you go back to school, you can ask one of the teachers that's interested in bees, ask them more about the honeycomb.
I don't know who the teachers are.
Do you know?
Eleanor does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you could ask them.
Do you think that they'll enjoy hearing about this interview that you've done today?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think that they might be willing to do a video in their suits?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, then we could put that on. We could post that on our Eagle Haven site. Wouldn't that be fun?
We also did this other thing with the beeswax, and we made candles and things to sell.
Lovely.
I don't think it was our beeswax, because I don't think they know how to do that, but they got, they just bought some that were multicolored, and it told you how to make heart candles and multicolored ones. But our teacher got this thing where you can melt the wax, and she knew how to get that from our bees, but she didn't know how to get the wax to make the candles, so she tried to melt it, but then she had it all burnt or something, so we couldn't do what we wanted to do with it, because we were going to make lip balm or something.
Oh, that sounds yummy and very soothing. So there are lots of products, not just the honey that we eat, but there are other products, right?
Yeah.
Most importantly, the cross-pollination of all the different plants.
It's one of the most important things.
Yes.
As long as with the honey. We need the honey.
Well, this has been a sweet moment for me. Thank
Very
you
good.
all so very much. It's delightful. You'll come back? And
If
maybe
I don't have to dance in marshmallow suits.
Okay, we'll cut that deal right here. We
Okay.
promise. And perhaps we'll hear from some of the students who are part of the Eagle Haven adventures, learning adventures, and they could send you questions, and we could get answers to some of their questions about bees. Thank you so much. All of us at Eagle Haven look forward to seeing all of you outdoors in nature. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Do you have anything else to say? You want to say?
Oh, wait, no, I have one last thing.
All right.
Honey bees never sleep.
I never sleep?
Wow.
Wow. Fabulous. Okay. One more round of applause. Wonderful. Thank you so very much. And bye-bye for now. Bye.